Some stories are cruel, some stories are evil, and some stories are simply wicked. They twist your heart, pull you into disbelief, and leave you asking, how could this happen to anyone, especially a child? Beloved, welcome to Unbroken Courage. If this is your first time here, I'm Amara, and I want to thank you for joining me. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from, because stories like this remind us that pain has no borders, but neither does healing. Today's story was shared with me during one of my counseling sessions. It's the kind of story that makes you stop, breathe, and think about the power of forgiveness. Her name is Naomi. Naomi sat across from me, a quiet woman in her late 30s, hands folded tightly together like she was holding her memories from spilling out. Her eyes were warm, but behind that warmth lived a long history of pain. When she spoke, her voice trembled slightly. "Amara," she said, "people see me smiling today and they think I had an easy life, but there was a time when my own father made me wish I'd never been born." The room went still. I said nothing. I've learned that sometimes silence invites truth to walk in. Naomi took a deep breath. "He used to beat me, every morning before school, every night before bed, twice a day for 6 years straight." Her words didn't carry anger, only exhaustion, as if she had told the story to herself 1,000 times before and it still ached the same. She told me how it started. Her parents had separated when she was only 5. Her mother, tired of years of arguing and control, packed a single suitcase and left for another country. Naomi stayed with her father, a man whose heart had become a battlefield. "He told me I looked too much like her," she whispered. "Every time he saw my face, he saw hers." That resemblance became her punishment. If she smiled like her mother, he'd slap her. If she spoke softly like her mother, he'd hit her harder. If she cried, he'd say, "Stop crying like your mother." She didn't understand. She was only a child. At 6 years old, Naomi learned to move quietly. She would hide under her bed when she heard his footsteps echoing through the hall. She said his belt had a sound, a sharp whistle through the air, that haunted her even in her dreams. "Sometimes," she said, "I would pray not to wake up." Those words broke something in me. I reached across the table and held her hand gently. "You don't ever have to relive that again," I said softly, "but if you want to tell it, I'll listen." She nodded. The beatings continued year after year. At school, she wore long sleeves to hide the marks. The other children called her shy, but she wasn't shy. She was hiding. Her father told her, "No one will believe you. I'm respected. You're nothing." But God always leaves a witness. One afternoon, Naomi's teacher, Mrs. Lynn, noticed her wincing when she reached for a book. She asked her to roll up her sleeve, and what she saw made her freeze. Dark bruises, some old, some new. Mrs. Lynn didn't scold her, didn't panic. She just whispered, "Naomi, you're safe now." That moment, those 3 words, "you're safe now," changed everything. The next few weeks moved like a storm. Police officers, questions, neighbors whispering. Naomi being taken away in a car she didn't understand. Her father was arrested, and for the first time in years, she slept without fear. But freedom came with silence. Naomi told me, even when I was free, I didn't know how to live. The world felt too big. I didn't know who I was without pain. She was placed in foster care. Different homes, different faces. Some kind, some cold. But inside, the same question echoed every night. Why did he hate me so much? When she turned 15, she received a letter from her mother. It had taken years to reach her, passed through agencies and legal hands. Her mother wrote, "I didn't leave you, Naomi. I left him to survive. I thought one day I could come back for you." Tears filled Naomi's eyes as she read those words in my office. "That letter," she said, "was the first time I believed I was worth saving." Naomi built her life quietly. She finished school, studied nursing, and dedicated herself to helping others heal, maybe because no one had helped her when she needed it most. But life, in its strange way, wasn't done writing her story. Years later, she got a call. It was from a social worker. Her father was old now, frail, sick, and abandoned by everyone. No one would care for him. No one except her. "I didn't know what to do," Naomi told me, her eyes wet but steady. "Part of me wanted to hang up that phone, but another part of me remembered that teacher, the one who said I was safe now. Maybe it was my turn to give safety to someone who never knew it." She paused, looking out the window. "I went to see him, Amara. He didn't even recognize me at first, but when he did, he cried. I asked gently, "And what did you feel?" She whispered, "Peace. Not pity, not anger, just peace." Beloved, forgiveness doesn't mean what he did was right. It means Naomi refused to stay chained to his wrong. She turned her pain into compassion, her tears into healing, her history into hope. If you're watching this and you've ever carried the weight of someone else's cruelty, I want you to remember, you are not what they did to you. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from and if Naomi's courage touched your heart today, if you have not already done so. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of strength, faith, and redemption here on Unbroken Courage. Naomi sat across from me again, her hands calm now. The first time she came, her words trembled like broken glass. But this time, her voice carried something new: stillness. "I used to dream of justice," she said softly. "But when it finally came, I didn't feel what I expected." When her teacher reported the abuse, everything moved quickly. The police came to the house, the same house where she had once memorized every creak of the floor, where she had counted bruises instead of birthdays. They took her father away in handcuffs. He tried to shout, "She's lying!" But the evidence spoke louder than he ever could. The officers found the belt still hanging on the chair, the old marks on the walls, the frightened drawings Naomi had hidden under her bed, little stick figures with tears falling from their eyes. The judge didn't take long. 6 years of documented abuse, 2 counts a day, 1 terrified child. Her father was sentenced to 8 years in prison. "I remember sitting in that courtroom," Naomi said, staring at her folded hands. "He looked at me like I'd betrayed him. But what he didn't understand is that I was the child. He was supposed to protect me." She looked up at me, her eyes steady. "When they took him away, part of me felt free, but another part felt empty." I nodded slowly. "Justice can heal the body," I said, "but it takes longer to heal the heart." She smiled faintly. "Exactly." Naomi's teenage years were filled with noise. School bells, city sounds, laughter she didn't yet know how to join. People assumed that because she was out of danger, she was healed. But trauma doesn't work that way. It hides in echoes. Sometimes she'd wake up sweating, hearing that familiar whistle of the belt in her dreams. Other times she'd see men who looked like her father and her whole body would stiffen, even when she knew she was safe. For years, she avoided mirrors. "I couldn't stand to see her face," she said, meaning her mother's. It was like I was carrying the ghost of the woman who ruined him, or at least that's what he used to say. When Naomi turned 21, her father was released early for good behavior. The news shook her. "I thought I was done with that chapter," she told me, but hearing he was out, it was like opening a wound that had barely closed. He sent a letter, the first and only. No apology, just a few words. "You are still my daughter. Don't forget where you come from." Naomi didn't reply. Instead, she folded the letter, placed it in a box, and said a quiet prayer. "Lord, let me never become like him." Years went by. Naomi became a nurse. The kind of nurse who held hands when others were afraid to. She worked night shifts in a small hospital and volunteered on weekends at shelters. She said, "Maybe helping others was my way of rewriting my story." I believed her, because some people talk about healing, others live it. Then one morning, her phone rang again. It was the same social worker who'd helped her years ago. "Naomi," the woman said gently, "I think you should know, your father's in hospice care. There's no one left to visit him." Naomi didn't answer at first. She just sat there, silent. After a long pause, she said, "Is he asking for me?" "Yes," the social worker said. "He's been asking for you every day." Naomi told me she didn't sleep that night. She kept pacing, debating, remembering the screams, the bruises, the fear, and then remembering something else: freedom. The next morning, she took the bus to the hospice. When she entered the room, she didn't recognize him at first. The man lying there was small, frail, and pale, nothing like the towering figure who once ruled her world with cruelty. He looked up and whispered, "Naomi?" She froze, then nodded. "Yes, it's me." Tears filled his eyes. "I don't deserve this," he said weakly. "I did terrible things. I wanted to hurt your mother, but I hurt you instead." Naomi said her hands were shaking, but her voice didn't break. "I know," she replied. He reached for her hand, but stopped halfway. "Do you hate me?" She said, "No, I did once, but I don't anymore. I needed to let that go, or it would have destroyed me too." He cried then, quietly, helplessly. Naomi sat beside him, not as a daughter or a victim, but as a woman who had learned that forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was power. A few months later, he passed away, and at his funeral, there were only two people, Naomi and the same teacher, Mrs. Lynn, now gray-haired but still gentle. Mrs. Lynn held her hand and whispered, "You did the right thing." Naomi nodded. "I didn't do it for him," she said softly. "I did it for me. Beloved, I know that story was heavy, but I want you to think about something Naomi said near the end of our last session together. She said, forgiveness doesn't erase justice. It just ends the control pain has over your life. That's deep truth. Because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means you're done being a prisoner of what they did. If you're watching this right now and you've survived pain, maybe from family, maybe from someone you trusted, remember this: you're not the pain they caused. You're the proof it didn't win. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from and one thing you're learning to forgive. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories of strength, grace, and courage here on Unbroken Courage. Until next time, beloved, stay free, stay gentle, stay unbroken.